you can see, I've got a broken garage door spring. Left the house the other day to run some errands. Came back, the door wouldn't open, and you can see the spring is totally detached. Luckily, I was able to find a kit on Amazon. Came with gloves, instructions, winding bars, which are super important, one spring, two springs. I ordered some 207 222 springs for my garage door setup. Basically what they're getting at is the inner diameter of the spring is 2 inches. The total length of the spring is 22, and then you count 20 wraps, measure it. I got 4 inches, divide it by 20, and you get your wire size. Now there are a lot of YouTube videos out there about spring replacement. I did watch a couple of them. A few are good, some were a little bit convoluted. Don't let this type of job scare you. Pretty common theme out there for everybody is how dangerous this is. And yes, springs under tension can be dangerous, but as long as you take your time and do the job correctly, you should be fine. One thing I would definitely tell you not to skimp on would be your winding bars. You have to have a good set of winding bars. Don't use a screwdriver like I was thinking about doing. A good set of winding bars will fit nice and snug into the cap and allow you to get a secure bite on this thing while you're spinning it around. Now this channel right here did have some great advice on your winding bars, and that is to mark them in some way so that you know how far down you've engaged your bar. If you don't have any point of reference and you only put it in here like this, it can slip out. So I'm just taking some electrical tape, putting the bar in there, and now this way I'll be able to tell how much engagement I have. Probably about 3/4 of an inch, but I would make sure to measure your springs before you attempt it. So before we get going, you're going to need 2 vice grips. The smaller vice grip I'm going to place right here above the roller. I don't want the door to raise while I'm working on it, while I'm tensioning the springs. And we're going to save the bigger one for the cable. I'll show you that when we get there. First things first, put your safety glasses on. Now we're safe. We've got our winding bars. They're going to go here in our spring. And I'm going to use a 3/8 square socket. I believe a 7/16 will also work for this if you don't have one. What we're going to do is we're going to put a winding bar in there. And we're going to put some tension on it so that I know I have a good bite on it. And then I have 2 set screws. One is up here on the top, one is around the back. So I'm going to put some tension on the bar, loosen up the set screws, and then slowly wind the bar down until it hits the door. Little by little you're going to do this. Don't try to do too much at one time. Winding bar in, putting some tension. Going to loosen this up. Going to loosen up the back side. And I'm going to let the bar down until it contacts the door. Now this zone here is the danger zone, so be careful. Don't stick your head anywhere in where this bar can go from this point forward. Notice I have the winding bar resting on the door, and I have full engagement in the winding cup. So at this point, I take another bar, lift it up just enough to where I can pull this one out, roll it down, and do the exact same process over and over until there's no more tension. Your rod should be staying put, and little by little you feel tension relaxing on that spring. All right, now this is probably the last turn here, but just to be safe, I'm going to insert the bar and just make sure everything is loose. I don't find myself binding on anything. And there you go, one unwound spring. And since this guy was broken to begin with, I just need to make sure the lock nuts are loose. Now that the spring tension is off, I'm going to take 2 9/16 and loosen up the coupler. Save these bolts for later. Notice my cable is slack, so there's no tension on it. Just going to break off the lock bolt, unwind it until you find your groove, and then just unhook the cable, route it up out of the way. Make sure that thing can slide. Once again, there's no tension on the cable. Bring it around and make sure it's loose. So what you got to do now is grab your bar. So typically at this point, what you'd be doing is just sliding the bar that way, away from the bracket, till it drops down. You can get the pulley off and you can get the spring off. my garage apparently is too narrow. So what I'm gonna have to do is take off this bracket here. It just has 3 bolts, it's 1, 2, 3, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this bar out enough to where I can take the spring, the pulley, and the spring and all that stuff off. You can see where someone has banged into the siding there last time they did this. So that's how much room I have. 1 inch, give or take. Not sliding a bar out of that. All right, I'm gonna try to slide that end cap over, slide the pulley over, and then slide the broken piece over. That took a lot longer than it should have because the bolt broke. So now I'm gonna need to get another bolt. I got the 2 springs side by side here so you can see the similarities in them. Again, there's a lot of good calculators online for what size spring you need. These are gonna fit the bill for me just fine, I believe. But what I wanted to point out was that we have a red end cap and we have a black. So if you are standing in the garage looking at your springs, the left one will be red, right one will be black. When in doubt, just match up the one you were after. But if I take a look at that coil right there, see how it's headed up and over like this? This one needs to be doing the exact same thing. Up and over like that. So you're gonna have to bend these things around to get it to fit. Put the pulley back on, and I'm gonna put the bracket back on there. Let's see if this way, yay! The pulley back on. I'm gonna check and make sure the other side is about even there. Close enough. So you take your cable, feed it through the pulley slot till it locks into position. You want to keep your cable wound up in that groove. And I'm going to put a little bit of tension on it while I snug these guys up. And once I feel these guys bottom out, I'm going to go another half turn. Same thing for this one. Come back over to this guy, give it a 1/4 turn. You don't want it to be too tight, you also don't want it to go anywhere. Now I'm going to take my bigger vice grip and I'm going to put enough tension on this to where my cable is taut so that this side won't back off while I'm tightening up the other side. Same deal as before, you put your cable into the pulley, wrap it around the back side, keep tension on it. There's little grooves it needs to go in. Same deal as before, once it hits the pipe, give it a half turn for this guy, and then another 1/4 turn. That is on there. Now you're gonna slide your springs over, line these guys up, and give them a snug. This next part is probably the most dangerous because we're gonna be loading up this spring. We're gonna load up both of them, but this one first. So we've got our winding bars here. We've got our ratchet for the set screws. We're gonna do 31 1/4 turns. So that means when I tension this guy up, I'm gonna raise it up till it hits the bar, that's gonna be 1. Raise it up till it hits the bar, that's gonna be 2. 31 of those. Since I can move that one by hand, I'll start it when I can get a second bar in there. So this will be 1. 2. 31. So now we've got a lot of tension on the spring. I want to stay clear of this area here. I'm going to hang on to it and I'm just going to start tightening the set screws. Now once you've made contact with the pole, you're going to tighten it down another half turn on both screws. And then a 1/4 turn. Okay, so now we have the spring very loaded up. I'm gonna release it the same way I did earlier. Put a bar in here, push up, take this bar out, and that's a spring with tension on it. Let's go do the other side. All right, this one the same way. There's no tension here, so I'm gonna start right now. That's 1. $31. Now tighten your set screws up till they contact the bar. Give it a half turn. And then a quarter turn. All right, moment of truth. So I'm gonna put this top bar in, raise it up, take the bottom bar out, and we are tensioned. All right, it's a little nerve-wracking, but you can do it. Now you can take your vice grip off. Take the other vice grip off as well. Okay, now what we want to do is raise the door up manually and see how hard it is for us to raise it up and down. Okay, once we get it about halfway, it should stay here. All right, let's see how it comes down. I think we're good. The true test is going to be to latch it back into position. So how bad was it really? It's not terrible. Cannot do this job without winding bars. So do the job right. I was able to find a kit on Amazon. Watch a lot of YouTube videos on it. If this one doesn't do it for you, watch 5 more of them. That's what I did. All in all, it took me probably about 3 hours total, including a trip to Home Depot. Typically, you won't have to change that bracket, but I had to because my garage is just too narrow. I didn't weigh the door. I just went by spring dimension, and it's working. Sounds better than it did before too. I think these springs are a little bit higher quality, so don't be afraid of it. Anyone that tells you you're gonna get hurt, if you do the job improperly, then there's a great chance that you'll get hurt. But if you play it safe, winding bars, safety glasses, go slow, you're gonna be just fine. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them right down below. And as always, thanks for watching.